Welcome to the third module of the Mindfulness Self-Compassion online program, or MindOp for short. Last week, you sharpened your attentional muscle by engaging in body scan and thought meditations. This week, you will learn about a concept that is related to mindfulness called self-compassion. Specifically, you will learn to be mindful of your own painful emotional experiences and will learn that these painful emotional experiences are common threads that connect us all as human beings. Self-compassion is an Eastern influence concept that is related to the concept of compassion for others. Compassion for others is defined as being moved by other people's suffering and wanting to improve conditions for them and soothe their suffering and their pain. Self-compassion is therefore defined as being moved by your own suffering and the intention or desire to alleviate such suffering and soothe your own emotional pain. Self-compassion can be further broken down into three essential components. 1. Being mindful and accepting of even unpleasant emotions. 2. Having a sense of common humanity or a sense that we are all in this together. And 3. Practicing self-kindness. Mindfulness, which is the first component of self-compassion, requires mindful attention to your own painful emotional experiences. That is, if you don't pay attention to and embrace your own suffering with acceptance, how can you ever be moved by it or want to alleviate it? The bigger concept of mindfulness we have been discussing for the last 2 weeks teaches us to pay purposeful attention to the full range of experiences, from the very pleasant all the way to the very unpleasant, without judgment and reaction. The mindfulness component of self-compassion, on the other hand, teaches us to pay attention to painful or unpleasant emotional experiences with an attitude of acceptance, openness, and curiosity. This is a skill that needs to be honed, as many either avoid paying attention to painful experiences, or if they're paying attention to them, they become over-identified with them and are swept up in them. As we learned in the mindfulness focus modules, a key skill in mindfulness, much like in self-compassion, is to pay attention to painful experiences with an attitude of befriending, acceptance, without struggle or attempts to deny the pain, an attitude of acknowledgement of the hurt and the pain. Mindfulness of painful emotions is an important component of self-compassion. Many scientific studies, along with many years of clinical practice, has shown us that when people are experiencing elevated depression, anxiety, or stress, they often want to avoid or escape these painful emotions as much as possible. This is again natural, but the problem is, in avoiding or shunning these unpleasant emotional experiences, we may inadvertently start to believe that these experiences are, quote, bad, wrong, or dangerous. The reality is, unpleasant emotions such as sadness, fear, stress are all very natural and we all experience them at one point or another. They are an essential part of life, and they're neither dangerous nor abnormal in any way. Being mindful of these painful emotions helps us put them in the right place. Through mindfulness, you are able to see that you can be aware of them with a sense of acceptance, without being reactive to them, acknowledging their presence, embracing them as natural, and at the same time, approaching them with a sense of balance and curiosity. So, to summarize, the first component of self-compassion is mindfulness. Much like the bigger concept of mindfulness we've been learning about the last 2 weeks, mindfulness as a component of self-compassion is also related to acceptingly and non-judgmentally being aware of experiences. However, unlike the bigger concept of mindfulness, mindfulness within self-compassion is related more specifically to paying attention on purpose and non-judgmentally to present moment suffering and painful emotional experiences. This form of mindfulness engenders an attitude of balance, curiosity, and acceptance of even the most painful of emotions. Before we delve into a meditative practice that is designed to make you more mindful of your own unpleasant emotions, an important point must be mentioned. Given that the next meditation is about being aware of unpleasant emotions, it is perfectly natural and normal to feel unpleasant emotions during the meditation, but also shortly after the meditation is over. Be rest assured that this is the experience of many people who are beginning a course of self-compassion. Secondly, for most people, these unpleasant emotions brought on during the self-compassion meditation tends to be very transient and short-lived. When you're ready, go to the next page to hear a guided meditation on mindfulness of unpleasant emotions.